Welcome, everyone, to a special collection of teachings from Sounds True, Walking Together, Putting Our Love into Action. This session is with Justin Michael Williams on freedom meditation. The revolution starts inside. Justin Michael Williams is a tremendously creative and visionary millennial voice who works at the intersection of teaching meditation, performing music, and working for social justice. He's a friend, someone who offers a hugely wide embrace, and his motto is "Together We Rise." Justin's the author with Sounds True of the book Stay Woke, a meditation guide for the rest of us. And he's devoted to bringing meditation to people who traditionally have felt excluded, often from various ways that meditation is presented, whether it's in a traditional form or the way that it's been monetized and not been made broadly accessible. Justin is partnering with the Sounds True Foundation to bring freedom meditation to high school students and college students across America. We've created together the Stay Woke Give Back Tour. And if you want to learn more, staywokegiveback.org. We've already raised over $200,000 with a lot of support from the Sounds True community. And Justin is now virtually connecting directly with high school students and college students, offering a combination of a TED Talk, a musical performance, and then for people who are interested, a 40-day text message where you're able to learn freedom meditation with guidance from Justin. Again, we welcome you to join us. Together we rise. staywokegiveback.org. And now, freedom meditation with Justin Michael Williams.
Hey everybody, this is Justin Michael Williams here with a session on freedom meditation. And I'm so excited and so honored to be with you today, especially given the state of our world and everything happening in the world today. It's more important now than ever that we, the conscious people, the woke people, the spiritual people of all ages, genders, colors, socioeconomic backgrounds, no matter who we love, no matter who we are, no matter what's going on in our lives right now, that we come together, that we walk together, that we take a moment to do the internal work that it takes to make the external world show up differently. And we all know this. And this is why we have dedicated so much of our lives and so much of our work here to being a part of this community here at Sounds True, because we know that the internal work is really what it takes to make the external world show up differently. We know that it starts inside. And so today, I want to guide us into this experience, but to first talk about how revolutionary it is that we are even having this conversation today. Many of our ancestors, familial and not familial, the people who have fought and had to give up life purpose and had to give up, they didn't have a chance to think about meditation and life purpose and manifesting and all this stuff that we have the chance to think about today. They had to give up those things to sacrifice for the future generation. And guess what? We are that generation. We have been paid for, and we cannot take that for granted. So today, yes, we're going to meditate. Yes, you're going to learn a style of meditation. But this style of meditation isn't just about sitting and sending love and light. That's important. I'm not knocking that, and I'm saying that we have to do that. I'm saying that it's not enough. I'm saying that the reason why we do these practices is so that we can get off of our meditation cushions and take action. Action for our lives, action for our families, action for our communities, action for this planet, action for one another, and action for people who can't take action for themselves. And so I thank you and I honor you for being a living ancestor now, as what my colleague Layla Saad calls a good ancestor, doing the internal work that it's going to take to make this external world show up differently. And I cannot talk about ancestors at all, ever, without talking about this woman here on the screen right now. This is my grandmother, who in my family we call Baka. So Baka, it's actually not even for like some special reason other than I was a really weird little kid. And you know how when you're teaching kids how to say a word, my parents were trying to teach me to say grandma. And they would go, okay, so say grand. And I would go grand. And they would go say ma. And I would say ma. And they would go, okay, say grandma. And I would go Baka. And so she became Baka in our family. And my Baka, my grandmother, was one of the closest people to me in my entire life and my entire family. And several years ago, my Baka got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and the doctors told her she only had a couple months to live. And when this happened, it was a huge shock to our entire family. My Baka was only 67 years old, which I consider young, one of the healthiest people seemingly in our family. So it was a huge shock. And anybody who is close to their grandmother, or grew up close to their grandmother, knows how deeply this cuts. And so I got on an airplane right away and flew from LA to Northern California, where I'm from, to a little town called Pittsburgh, California. Yes, there's a Pittsburgh in California. Most people don't know that. But I walk into the door, and as soon as I walk in, she pulls me into her room by her hands, closes the door, and asks me a question that literally changed the trajectory of my entire life. She said, if you were in my shoes and you knew you were going to die in 2 months, what would you do? If you were in my shoes and you knew you were going to die in 2 months, what would you do? And I pause and I'm looking at her like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I've been wanting to talk to you about this for a long time, but since I know I don't have a lot of time left, I'm asking you this now. Close your eyes, get still, do that meditation thing you're always talking about. Go into your heart and don't speak until you're telling me the truth. And so I closed my eyes and I felt this well of emotions come up. And right away, before I could even think about it, these words just came out. And I said, I would drop every single thing that I'm doing and I would record an album. I would do music. And the thing is, I had always wanted to do music ever since I was a little boy. But I let all the kids who teased me at school about being gay, about being different, make me think I sucked at everything, and I stopped myself. And I think we all have these things. We all have these dreams and possibilities that we think are not possible for us. Because one day when we were younger, somebody said we're too fat or too old or too ugly or too poor, or too gay, or you're not good enough, or you should have started before you had kids, or you waited too long, or my favorite, people like us just don't do that. Whatever it was, our trauma, these old stories of our past come and limit our future. You know, we all have this experience in some ways. I'm sure you're thinking of a dream of your own, whether it's about your body or your money or your relationships or any other part of your life, your art, creativity, and business. And so when my grandmother asked me this question, it woke something up inside of me that I thought was gone. And one of the things that I love from The Alchemist, the book The Alchemist that I know many of you have read, is that our dream, that personal legend inside of us, it never gives up on us. It's just waiting for us to turn toward it and say, yes, I'm here. You are enough. Yes. And so, because you don't break a promise to your grandma, at least I don't break promises to my Baka. So she made me look her in the eyes and said, promise me you'll do it. I knew this is what you really wanted when you were a little boy, but you started building your life based on everyone else's expectations of you. You started building your life based on a desire to get out, on a desire to leave. So promise me, I don't care how you do it, when you do it, or what you do with it, promise me that you'll record an album. And it was interesting when she started talking about, living your life based on other people's expectations, because right when she said that, I felt this quote that I'm showing you now flash in front of my eyes, this anonymous quote. And here's what it says. It says, someone once told me the definition of hell. On the last day you have on earth, the person you became will meet the person you could have become. The person you became will meet the person you could have become. And I felt that so deeply. And I think so many of us, we've had so many moments in our lives where we close our eyes and we can see these lives that we haven't started living yet. We can see a world that we haven't stepped into yet. And how does this relate to the movement for change and equality and justice? Well, guess what? People say that it's not possible for us. People think that our separation sometimes is bigger than our ability to come together, but it's not. We know this in our community, that our possibilities really are bigger than our circumstances if we turn toward them and believe. And so when my grandma asked me this question, it woke up that plane of possibility that Dan Siegel so beautifully calls, my brother Dan calls so beautifully, the plane of possibility, where I saw an opportunity and a moment to turn towards that personal legend and to say yes. And so gratefully, after a lot of work, y'all, so it sounds easy, right? It's like, oh, then I put out my album. After a lot of internal work, moving through my fears, moving through the critical inner voices, like the self-sabotage and all the things, I put out my album, which I'm putting for you on the screen right now, that charted in the top 20 of the pop charts on iTunes. That's me right next to Taylor Swift and Britney Spears. I was screaming like a little girl when that happened. And I'm sharing this with you to say, first of all, not to brag and not to even tell you that you need to quit your life and put out an album or do none of that at all. I'm telling you this because the thing that got me to be able to grow up in a home with gunshot holes on the outside of my house, to spend my entire early life moving in a different direction, to being able to wake up and step into the dream and the calling that was in on my life was meditation, was freedom meditation. And the reason why meditation is the practice that I teach. So first of all, you look at my bio and you look everywhere in the world, you will never, ever see me called a meditation teacher. And that's quite frankly, and I know this sounds crazy being somebody who wrote a book on meditation, I don't give a shit about meditation. Really. The only reason I teach meditation is because meditation is the tool, the number one tool. And I've done therapy, everything you could think of, I've done it to heal. It's the number one tool that grounds you into that space inside of yourself that is immovable and unshakable. And with everything going on in the world right now, with all the uncertainty that we have going on in our lives and in our politics and in the movement for justice and change, what we need now more than ever is to take this revolution inside, is to ground into that place within us that is, like I said, immovable and unshakable. Whether you call that thing your higher self, God, the universe, spirit, whatever it is, that we can be moving from that place to create a better world. And so here are our goals today. Number one, I'm going to walk you through a system on using meditation to define your life on your terms. And then we're going to actually go into a practice together called the Dream Bigger meditation practice. This is one of my favorite practices from my book. And that practice is going to lead us into something which is called discovering your unique energy signature. And this is a really fun practice. It's usually people's favorite to really get a clear understanding of their own unique energy signature and how that energy signature leads us into changing and creating a new world together. And then finally, I got a little special surprise for you at the end, and it might have a little something to do with this guitar in the background if you're lucky. I'm kidding. So, before we get into, and as we get into talking about how to start defining your life on your terms, we have to first think about whose terms are we defining our life on, right? So many of us, like I said before, are building our lives based on other people's expectations, based on ideas of what we thought we're supposed to do, based on comparison. And this obviously applies, like everything that I'm doing today and all of my work really shows and applies at the individual level and the collective level. And why would we need to apply individual personal transformative work at the collective level? Well, as my sister Marianne Williamson always says, a nation or a society is just a collection of individuals. So how else can you change? How else can you change but going into the individual level and then applying that reckoning and that process and that journey to the collective? And so for me, it's always really fascinating because when I show up in different environments and I tell people that I'm a singer, like I sing and I do art or music, people are like, that makes sense. That looks good. You look like a singer. Are you also a dancer? You know, people ask these kind of questions. But when I tell people that I'm also an author and a meditation teacher, usually people, if they're being polite, they're kind of like, well, how'd you get into that? You know, and if they're being a little bit more direct, they're like, you're a meditation, you don't look like a meditation teacher. And I get why. Like, I totally get why. The idea of being a queer, Black, millennial meditation teacher is not quite what the image that they put out in the world about meditation is for us. But this is changing radically and quickly as this new generation of leaders and healers is coming forward as we decolonize our wellness practices. And so to prove this point, it was really interesting. When I first got on my book tour, when my book Stay Woke came out in February, I had the absolute privilege and honor of my first stop ever on my book tour, getting invited to go speak at Google in the Bay Area in California. And so I was like, let me try a little experiment. And so I wanted to see if I typed in the word meditation on Google, how long it would take me to find a picture of a Black man meditating. Don't even mention queer, but just a Black man meditating. And before I saw a Black man meditating, I saw this. This picture of this dog meditating. Now, look, I know we all love dogs, right? Like most of us at least love dogs and love our pets. And this is a super cute picture. But that's a mess, okay? The fact that it would be more likely for this dog to be meditating and teaching meditation than for a Black man to be meditating is not okay. You know, it's not okay. And there's some humor in this right now. But there is a change happening. And this change is going to only take place if all of us step up to the plate. And so the way that I actually got into this practice, I think like many of us, is always not, you know, kind of a windy road leading us here. But for me, I actually was, like I had mentioned earlier, I grew up in a home with gunshot holes literally on the outside of my house, with domestic violence and alcoholism and trauma and emotional abuse. And, you know, quite literally a lot of the things that maybe you listening have dealt with, but certainly a lot of the things that a lot of the Black and brown young children are facing in schools today. You know, Marianne Williamson said, who I love so much, said this thing when she was running on her campaign trail, that the children today are facing a level of PTSD that is similar to returning war veterans coming back from Iraq or from the war. But there's nothing P or post about it if it's happening every day, day in and day out. And then the kids are expected to go learn. This is why I've devoted so much of my life and time to giving back to our youth. And while I think you should too, we really have to invest in our youth. And so for me, this is my, those are my roots, you know, where I come from. You know, most people wouldn't know that seeing me today. And so when you grow up in that environment, you learn to adapt. We all have our trauma that we learn to adapt from. And in that environment, there's usually one of three ways that you get out, you know, of the hood. And one is either you sell drugs, which doesn't necessarily get you out of the hood, it just gets you to the top of it. Number two is you're really good at sports. And I was terrible at sports. I would have been a better cheerleader than any sport possible. And number three is to just be really smart, to be an overachiever and to get out. And I don't know about you, but I don't know if anybody relates to your achievements and your success being tied to your self-worth, but this was a huge part of my internal work in my early 20s. And so I became that kid who checked every box that there was to check, became one of those kids who was overachieving to the max, like a chronic overachiever, so that I could try to get out and make a better life for my family. And so I graduated the top of my class. I get a full ride academic scholarship to go to UCLA. I moved to Los Angeles. I'm living in this ritzy neighborhood with more scholarship money than made any sense because I was a little poor Black boy growing up in the hood going to college. And so spending my scholarship money on like True Religion jeans and stuff that I had no business doing at that time. And, you know, in this ritzy neighborhood, in my life on the outside looked exactly like I had always dreamed of. My life on the outside looked exactly like I'd always wanted. Out of the closet, living in a nice area, had extra money for the first time, getting great grades at UCLA. And I had this moment when I was 19 where I had an eating disorder, which is more common among men than most people know, especially gay men. And right now I'm about 6 feet tall. I'm 5'11", but 6 feet with the hair. And I weigh 160 pounds right now. At my lowest in high school, in college, I weighed 115 pounds. 115 pounds at the end of my freshman year. And so I went to a therapist, and the therapist said, you should try meditation. Now you have to remember, this is over a decade ago, okay? And my reaction to him was literally, I was like, meta what? Like, what are you talking about? Oprah hadn't done a meditation challenge. I didn't know any Black people meditating. Quite literally, my grandparents told me that meditation was worshiping the devil. I was like, what are you talking about? And he explained to me that, meditation is this thing that helps you go inside and all these things. And I'm like, all right, dude, like, all right, old man, like, whatever, And so I go trying to do this meditation thing. And most of the time I'm sitting down having the same experience that many of you guys have when you try meditating. Like, I can't get my mind to stop thinking. I'm trying to meditate. I should meditate. I'm sitting here for 20 minutes, but I really just can't stop thinking, the whole thing. And so I just was like, this isn't for me. I quit. I'm gonna try something else. And then a miracle happened. This is one of those moments where, we have those moments in our lives where something just shifts. Like there's a obvious, definite moment where everything from this point forward changes. So my friend, Christy, really good friend, Christy Christensen, she invited me to a birthday party of somebody who I didn't know. And I go to this party and I'm sitting down in this chair. So you got to get the picture. I'm like 19, I'm not 19, I'm in my early 20s, like wearing a deep V-neck, American Apparel t-shirt with my hair in a ponytail, recently out of the closet, eyebrows done, like just the most flaming possible, okay? And this man sits next to me, this older white gentleman. So he's in his 60s, I'm in my early 20s, and he leans into me and says, hey, young man, how was your day? And I lean back into him and I said, oh, it was okay. I said, I went to this meditation thing today, but I didn't really like it. And then I lean in closer and I said, have you ever heard about meditation? Because you remember, I didn't think anybody really knew about this thing. Little did I know, I'm sitting next to Sounds True author Lauren Roche, who wrote The Radiant Sutras, Meditation Made Easy, Meditation Secrets for Women, literally has been teaching meditation for over 40 years. And here's my little ass leaning up to him saying, have you ever heard about meditation? But here's the thing. Lauren did something really special in that moment. He didn't let me on to the fact that he was a teacher. He just started asking me questions as we sat there that night. Why do you want to meditate? What's going on in your life? And I started telling him about how I had tried to make my external circumstances look a certain way, hoping that it would make me happy within. I think we all have these moments of learning it. I tried to change my life, change how it looked, thinking that the bargain was if I showed up and did everything and changed everything and worked hard enough and read hard enough, then maybe I would finally be happy. You relate to that at all? Does anyone relate to that? And so I'm telling Lauren this, and at the end of the night, after a long conversation, still him not telling me he's a teacher, he rips out this little piece of paper and has his name and phone number, and he says, all right, kid, if you want to learn to meditate, meet me at the beach at the end of Ocean Park Boulevard in Los Angeles at 10:45 tomorrow morning. And so I grabbed this little piece of paper. And first of all, remember, I still didn't know he was a teacher. So I'm thinking, this old man is trying to pick me up. My mom taught me better than that. I'm not going to no beach, to learn to meditate at 10:40. Like I was just like so not there, And then obviously my friend Christy tells me who he is. I go to the beach that next day and my life changes forever. Forever forward, that day marked in my calendar. I celebrate it every year. Because what happened that day is the practice that Lauren initiated me into, which is the same practice we're going to do today, was the first time in my life that I actually saw and could feel in my body a future where my possibilities were bigger than my circumstances. The meditation practice we did that day was different than any other practice that I'd ever done in my life. And I said, if this is meditation, sign me up. I'm in. And so at the end of the practice, Lauren said, all right, kid, I want you to try this every day for 2 weeks. And if this practice is working for you, I'll teach you everything I know. And I'm looking at him still like, why? Like, I'm confused. Like, why is this man who's a world-renowned author and scholar, why is he giving this to me? No one had ever given something to me in that way before. And I said, why? And he said, which I'll never forget, he said, in my 30 years of teaching this practice, I have never come across someone who looks like you and who's gone through what you've gone through, who's been interested in this practice. And one day, I think there are going to be people who need to hear your voice who don't need to hear mine. I think there are going to be people who need to hear your voice who don't need to hear mine. Very fortuitous words. So here we are, fast forward almost a decade later. And I had the blessing and privilege of traveling with Lauren, apprenticing very closely with him for 3 years, helping him build out his teacher training program. And then finally the moment came where my voice needed to be shared. And so now I'm so grateful to say that my book, Stay Woke, A Meditation Guide for the Rest of Us, came out in February 2020. And it is the first meditation book that specifically applies these internal practices and rituals and practices and tools to the movement for social change, social justice, really showing us how the revolution starts inside. And this book, so gratefully, has practices for anxiety and stress and trouble sleeping and self-love and confidence and focus and intuition and social justice and obviously social change, but how we can line up ourselves within so that we can do the work outside from a place of authenticity and truth. And I want to read, before we get into our practice together, I want to read just a quick passage from you, because one of the things that my editor at Sounds True had challenged me to do when I was writing this book, Stay Woke, A Meditation Guide for the Rest of Us. She said, who's the rest of us, Justin? Who is the rest of us? Define it. And I was afraid, I didn't want to leave people out. I didn't want to, whatever. And I would have never known back then that I was writing this book for the world that we're in now, but here we are. So this is right in the beginning on page 3 of the book. For my Black brothers and sisters, this is for you. For my LGBTQIA plus brothers and sisters, this is for you. For my women who've had enough, this is for you. For my starving artists and workaholic creatives, this is for you. For my conscious entrepreneurs who want to make an impact, this is for you. For those who have been discriminated against for their otherness, this is for you. For my social justice warriors, this is for you. For my tree-loving planet savers, this is for you. And for all people of color and everyone else who is woke enough to understand why I'm even pointing that out in the first place. This is for you. But most importantly, this book is for us, for the people. And so I think we can find ourselves there. And I think given the state of the world that we're in right now, we can really find ourselves in there. And defining it is almost not even necessary, because we are exactly who was meant to be alive at this time. And when we step up to the plate and take the revolution inside, we can change the world. One of the things that I've been saying very publicly lately is, in the movement for social justice and change, we can do all the things on the outside. We can defund the police. We can elect a new president, which I think we should do. We can burn down and tear down the whole system and try to build it anew, from the criminal justice system to the prison system. We could tear it all down. But if we don't do the internal work that it takes to make the external world show up differently, we'll just keep rebuilding the same thing over and over. We would have no other choice. And so this is why we go within. This is why we do our practice, not just for our individual selves, but for the sake of humanity. So let's get ready to get into our practice. As we get in here, I just have a couple little pointers to mention to you that I think are essential to our work together. And the first is what you see here on the screen now, which is that meditation is not about relaxing. It's one of the biggest myths about meditation. Meditation is about becoming more alive, becoming more connected to our passions, more connected to our emotions, more connected to the causes and the things that we care about. And if we become more essentially connected to ourselves and the world around us, then we care more and we feel more. And we have the opportunity to paint with the full palette of our wheel of emotions, not just the emotions like joy and happiness and love and light. Yes, we want to be able to paint with those as much as we can, but we also need to be able to tap into our anger and our anxiety and our pain and not turn a blind eye for the sake of love and light to the things that are wrong in our world, but that when we look at the things that are wrong in our world, we love and we care. This is what it means to be more connected and to be more alive. And so sometimes when you sit down to meditate, maybe even in this practice today, maybe in your practices at some other point in your life, you might feel anxious or you might feel stressed or you might feel sorrow or you might cry or you might whatever. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. The goal of the practice is not to get to some like spiritual like white light state. When we get there, obviously it's great, right? I'm not knocking any of that. I'm saying, and also welcome it all in. Because if we don't welcome it in, we just suppress it. And whatever you push down and suppress, it just is going to seep in some other area of your life where it doesn't belong. And that's what we're seeing in our world right now. The suppression of what has really been happening, the truth of what's really been happening. And so there's been no reckoning until now. It's happening. It's happening now. And so what I want to say, just the last thing before we get into our practice together, is that meditation allows us to go inside and listen to the inner knowing that's inside of you to understand how to take action. And this is about finding your authentic voice in the movement for change. The way you show up isn't going to be the same as the way that I show up or the way that somebody on social media shows up or the way that your other favorite activists or writers or authors tell you to show up. You have to go inside of your own self and know, how can I use my gifts and talents and skills to serve this movement right now? How can I show up, me, in this moment for change? Let's dive into our practice. So this is the Dream Bigger practice. So for this practice today, I'd actually like for you to start with your eyes open. And I want you to start by looking at something in the space that you're in. You don't have to look at the screen. There's nothing to see here as long as you can hear my voice. But just look at something in the space that you're in and focus and fixate your eyes on one point. And it doesn't have to be a special point. It could be a spot on the wall or something outside your window. But whatever it is, just focus your eyes straight on that point and try not to move your eyes at all. And now, while keeping your eyes focused on this one point, I want you to start to expand your peripheral awareness. So notice how, without moving your eyes, how far to the right of you can see. And notice how far to the left of you can see. All without moving your eyes. Notice how many other textures and colors and patterns of light and shadows you can take in, all while looking at this one point without moving your eyes as best as you can. And then notice how far above and below you can see, all without moving your eyes. And as you continue to expand your vision, taking in as many colors and lights and textures as you can, I want you to notice that what we're doing with our eyes right now is the same thing that I invite you to do with your mind when you're meditating. we focus on a point, whether it's a mantra or my voice or any instruction or practice or the breath. And we don't block out our feelings and sensations and thoughts and emotions. We welcome them in the same way that we're welcoming in the colors and lights and textures from the periphery of our vision. And so right now, if you're willing and you feel comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes, taking that same kind of awareness and practice inward now. And place your hands over your heart, one on top of the other. And make sure your hands are really over your heart, over your chest, and not over your neck. We don't want to block our expression and our voice, but really just anchoring into the root of our hearts and the root of love. And now on the count of 3, I want you to exhale everything out of your system through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Exhale everything out through the nose and come to complete emptiness. And now slowly, to my count of 3, inhale for 1, 2, 3. Hold for 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Let's do that again. 2 more times. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Hold for 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3. Great. Last time. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Hold for 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3. And now just breathe normally with your hands over your heart. If you're uncomfortable with your hands there, you can drop them down. And I'm going to invite you into a short visualization with me. And as we do this imaginative practice, I want you to remember that some people don't imagine with images in their mind. Some people do get images and visions in their heads. But some of us imagine with sound, or with smell, or with taste, or with our emotions, or with feeling and physical sensation in our bodies. So if you are doing this practice and you are getting fuzzy or unclear images or no images at all, remember to welcome in all of your senses, to welcome what does arise, and not just focusing on what doesn't arise. Let's begin. I want you now to imagine a world where we are living the lives of our dreams, where all people are living in the fullness and the dignity and the humanity that is their birthright, where you personally are living with the freedom and expression and resources that you need to live at your fullest capacity, where our planet is healthy and thriving, where all things are in perfect balance and perfect flow. If this feels impossible good, we have to decondition our mind from thinking in the limitations of our circumstances and stretch into the space of our possibility. So let yourself go there. So I want you to see if you can notice yourself in this image. And as you imagine this future world and this future you, see if you can land on one image, one spot, one sense. And let's take it a little deeper. I want you to notice in this vision, are you indoor or are you outdoor? And remember, if it's a little fuzzy, that's okay. Just notice what you notice. Are you indoor or are you outdoor? What color might you be wearing in this vision? Is there anybody there with you? And what's happening in this vision, or what had just happened or is about to happen, that indicates to you that we're living in the world of our dreams? No judgment. Let anything come up that's coming. Trust that whatever you're seeing is exactly what you're meant to see in this practice today. And then notice in this vision, do you taste anything or not? Do you hear anything? Or maybe you smell something or sense something or have a physical sensation in your body. How does it feel to be in this future world with this future you who's living the life of your dreams? Now take a moment and just let this expand a little bit more. Scan around yourself in the vision and notice if there's any other sounds or sights or little things that you might be seeing, or textures or colors or things in your environment, even if they're fuzzy or incomplete. Notice what you can. Dimensionalize this for yourself. And now, anchoring this vision in your mind, I'm going to ask you a question. And I want you to answer this question with 1, 2, or 3 words. The first thing that pops into your mind. Keeping your eyes closed and in this space of your vision, here's your question. As you look at this future you in this future world, living the life of your dreams, what energy do you need to cultivate more of in your life now, today, to become closer to being that person that you see in your vision? I'll ask it again. What energy do you need to cultivate more of in your life now to become closer to being that person you see in your vision and stepping into this world that we see together? What energy do you need? 1, 2, or 3 words. Just trusting what comes up first. And now, whatever words you landed on, without being too perfectionist or judgmental about it, just letting it arise, I want you to repeat those words in your mind 3 times, just to anchor them into your memory for a moment. And now for the next 3 breaths on your own count, I want you to inhale deeply and imagine you're inhaling the energy of these words. Maybe you even see a color or a texture. And as you inhale, the energy of your word or words literally cover and soothe and bathe every crevice of your inner and outer body, filling you up with its light and energy. And then with every exhale, imagine yourself sending and transmitting that energy out to everyone in the world who needs that same energy. So you're inhaling and taking the energy in with your breath, and exhaling, offering that energy out to all who are in need. Do a few more rounds just like that, inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Take one more final breath in and a breath out. And when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes. Welcome back. So I want you to realize how powerful what we just did is. What I asked you to do was to look at where we are now. And I said, look at where we want to go. Look at a future that's beyond our circumstances, that's in the space and the plane of our possibilities. And I said, what's in the gap? What is in the gap? And notice, I didn't say, what do you need to do to fill the gap? I said, who do you need to be? What energy do you need to cultivate to become the person that you see in your vision? What energy do you need to cultivate to build this world that we see in our vision? Because each of us has a part to play. Each of us has a role. And so the energy is going to be different. And so this word, or these words that you created today, are your unique energy signature in the movement for change. Whatever words you had, whether it's confidence or determination or passion or peace or love or kindness or rocks or whatever it was, it could be any word that exists in any language that you choose. This is your unique energy signature. And the way we use these words in our practice, in our internal practice, is similar in the same way that we would use a mantra. Because the truth is, we constantly are told and are telling ourselves that the answers are within us. But so rarely do we have instructions or even the permission to cultivate and use the answers that are within. And so we're seeing this as we're decolonizing our wellness practices these days. We're seeing the way that the wellness world has really been built, has been, okay, here's me, this person who is deficient, and looking outside of myself for the next book, the next podcast, the next teacher, the next guru, the next somebody to tell me what I need. What do I need? We're asking, what do I need to be well? Can you tell me what I need to be well? And there's nothing wrong with that sometimes. I'm not knocking that. We need support, and we can anchor into and rest into the support when we need help. But we also need to know that we are enough and that we are not deficient and that we are not broken. And what we need to grow and change and to become the people that we know we were put on this planet to be, we know inside of ourselves what that energy is. And so when we use our freedom meditation practice, and this is one of the tenets of freedom meditation, is my entire book, Stay Woke, which is here, in the practice of freedom meditation, is not a practice that's telling you, this is what you need to practice, this is what you need to do. It's a book that guides you like a recipe. And it tells you, here are some of the ingredients that you might use to create this meal of your meditation practice. And you get to choose which of the ingredients you use, including your mantra, including all of the answers being resourced from within. And so freedom meditation is not about prescribing you a solution. It's about giving you the context so that the solutions can occur from within you. Because I don't know what's going to be happening in your life. I don't know what you need. I could prescribe you a practice for peace, but maybe you need power. Or I can prescribe you a practice to relax, but maybe you need joy and energy, or vice versa. And so this practice, this mini little version that we did today, is just a taste of what we can do when we source our answers from within and start the revolution from the inside out. And we see what we need for ourselves. What do we need as individuals to cultivate in our own lives, to step into our dharma, to step into our calling, and to step into this movement for change in an authentic way. And then, remember I said I didn't ask what you do. And then the doing changes. Because you can do the same things, but if it's coming from a different place of being within ourselves, the results of those actions will show up differently. And we see this in our own lives, right? Like, this is how you could literally be like, in the most practical way. How many of us have been in a relationship with somebody, a romantic relationship, broke up with that person and realized the relationship wasn't right for us, and then somewhere down the line ended up in a relationship with a new person, but realized we're in the same relationship with the different person with a different name, right? In the same relationship over and over and over. And that's because we haven't shown up for the relationship differently. We haven't changed on the inside to show up differently for a new relationship. And this doesn't just apply romantically. It applies to our relationship with all things, with all things. And so this is why the revolution starts inside. So I have a few things that I want to share with you before I tell you what's next and give you the little surprise and a little song for you guys here at the end. So first thing, before I even offer you what's next, is I want you to take a moment to decide what your takeaway is going to be from this practice. What is it that you want to take from this practice today? So take a moment real quick, if you're willing, to just close your eyes, hands over the heart, to release some oxytocin. And just think, if I could take one golden nugget from this talk today, one thing, even just one, what would that one thing be? And it takes just about 45 seconds to commit something into the long-term memory. So just for a few seconds here, just consciously think about that thing. What do you want to take away? What do you want to take away? And this might be something that you share, this takeaway, with your family and the people you love in your community as we help spread this movement. I know my takeaway is always how much of a gift it is and a privilege that we get to be doing this work together right now, that we get the opportunity to step up and do this change. And so I have a few things that I want to share with you if you want to take this further. Some variety of options, from completely free to people who want to dive in a little bit deeper. And obviously I already talked about my book, but I have some really deep things to talk to you about right now. So the first thing that I want to share that you're seeing on the screen here right now is, I had this idea. I was at Esalen in Big Sur, and I had this idea of, what if there was something that was like if church, a TED Talk, and Super Soul Sunday had a baby and came together, where we could come together in a space to worship and praise and give thanks and give gratitude, but that wasn't conflicting with any religious beliefs and wasn't religious at all, but was pulling together the greatest wisdom teachings from all over the world. Not even religious, some religious texts, some not, but pulling together them in a conciliant way and framework that works together with live music and celebration and singing and the whole thing. And so I started something, or I would rather say something moved through me, called The Kingdom. And it's every Sunday, totally for free. And it's a place for our community to come together in our differences, with all of our woo-woo beliefs and our belief in something greater, and to give thanks and to come together. We can't just be talking about coming together. We need to actually come together. And so it's every single Sunday. You can stream it virtually. It's at 11:11 a.m. Pacific time, which is 2:11 p.m. Eastern time, 7:11 p.m. in London. And there's no donation bucket passed. That's one thing that's different than church. For music and connection and community and the greatest wisdom teachings with lots of special guests, like church, Super Soul Sunday, and a TED Talk coming together to celebrate for our community. And so I invite you to join that. And the link to join that is right here on the screen for you. It's just justinmichaelwilliams.com/thekingdom. And the second thing is very important, probably the most important thing that I'll mention to you today as it relates to next steps. And I talked a little bit earlier about giving back to our youth. And so what sounds true, I had the absolute pleasure and gift to, at the beginning, so it was right before COVID, my book came out. And what Sounds True and the Sounds True Foundation, we decided to flip the traditional book tour model on its head completely. And instead of going to the most affluent neighborhoods, we said, what if we go to some of the most marginalized communities? What if we go to Southside Chicago and Detroit and Flint, Michigan and Oakland, California, and to my hometown, Pittsburgh? And if instead of doing these events just for adults, what if we go to high schools and we go to colleges and we surprise the kids and give them all a free book and do a big TED Talk meets music concert style event to meet the kids where they are and teach them this practice that helps them anchor into this space in themselves that's immovable and unshakable? And what if we give them a 40-day guided audio meditation practice so that it's not just us coming in and saying, hey, look at us, sounds true, saving the world, and then leaving? What if we give them long-term support? And what if we give it to all of these schools and all of the kids for free? This big idea that was bigger than our circumstances. And so I talked with Tammy and we decided to do it. And we, from the community, many of you watching this probably were a part of this, we raised over $200,000 to go to schools all over the country. And then we decided to take it virtual because obviously COVID came, and we went to a few schools in the beginning and then virtual and then going in person again as the world allows for that to happen. And so we are still raising money to go to as many schools and reach as many kids as possible. And it only costs $8 per child to be a part of this movement. And you can also sponsor a city and or support and partner with us and bring us to a city near you or a school near you. And so if you're interested in joining that movement, the link is here, and it's staywokegiveback.org. That's staywokegiveback.org. And this gives us a chance to give back to our youth and to help our youth have something to anchor into while us adults are figuring this stuff out. Okay. And then finally, the last thing that I'm so honored and excited to talk to you about is something, we talk a lot about coming together, but I found that there's so few opportunities for us to actually do that. Like, we have books that, like, white people read these books for white supremacy and becoming an anti-racist, and then Black people read these books and these people doing this. So what I kept feeling was like, where do we actually come together? Where do we actually link? And so there is an incredible experience that I invite you to be a part of if it feels like a calling in your heart to actually come together, where we start as a group in this virtual experience, and there's some in-person ones as well when that's possible, where we start as one group, one big affinity group or infinity group, which is what we're calling it, of people of all races. And then we split into two groups, a group of people who identify as white and a group of people who identify as people of color. And we do work side by side to end racism. For example, we all need to process our emotions as it relates to the truth of the history of race in America and in the world. But the way Black people need to process their anger and rage to show up differently is very different than the way white people, for example, need to process their shame and grief and anger. And even though we have similar emotions to process, there's a differentiation of how we need to process those emotions and what they need to do. And when we do that in the same container, then we get to come together in a way that promotes more compassionate linkages and a deeper coming together. And so we created what's called infinity groups, where we start as a group and we go through an 8-part process where we're coming together and we're splitting, and we're coming together and we're splitting to do racial healing and have a real experience with somebody who's unlike you from even other parts of the world, to come together and truly walk together. And this is called, what this program is called, is the liberation experience. And the liberation experience is something that you can apply for to participate. We like to create groups that feel even and equal, and you can apply to participate in our next program at justinmichaelwilliams.com/liberation. And this is just an incredible moment for us to really come across the divide, for us to do the internal work that it takes to make the external world to show up differently. And what I really believe is that this work is not just for white people to do. It's not just for Black people to do, no matter whose fault it is or who's pointing the finger of blame. It's time for all of us to step up. It's time for all of us to do the work on our emotions and on forgiveness and on atonement and on reckoning and on truth and on visioning a new future together. And this is what we'll do together in the liberation experience. And I hope you'll join us. And so in closing, I look back at this picture of my Baka. And even though her passing was one of the hardest things that I had ever gone through, or at least one of the first very hard things that I had to go through, she offered me one of the greatest gifts in her passing. And it was the gift of fully being able to live my life. And I would have never imagined, here's little Justin again, I would have never imagined this little boy would be here living this life today, having the gift of speaking and teaching and traveling and getting to share and be in community with you all. And I know that child in you is waking up as well and is always there, just wanting to know that they are enough, that they are loved, and that they are supported, and that we will not give up on them. We will not give up on those dreams. We will turn to that child inside of each and every one of us and tell them that they are enough. They are worthy, not just for what they do, but for who they are. This is the revolution. It starts inside. And it begins with each and every one of us. So now, I'd love to sing a song to you all. And the song is called I Am Enough. It's available everywhere, streaming on Spotify and Apple Music and things like that. And we put this song out with the book Stay Woke to sing and have a song to go out to these kids when we were on the tour. And so as we do this song together, first I'll tell you the words of the chorus. It's I am enough. I am golden, baby, yeah. I am enough. I am golden, baby, yeah. And as we sing this song together, I want you to sing it as a prayer and an intention in your heart for that child inside of each of us, for all the children around the world and all the adults with children inside of them around the world who just want to know that they're enough and they're worthy. This is I Am Enough.
Little boy, don't cry. You've been in pain enough, no. Little girl, don't hide. You're finally safe enough. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you you don't need to hide behind disguise. No, spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side, yeah. I am enough. I am golden, baby, yeah. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Oh, I am golden, baby, yeah. I am enough. I am enough. Oh, little girl, it's alright. You've taken the blame. Enough, no. Little boy, don't hide. You've been ashamed. Enough. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you you don't need to hide behind disguise. No, spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side. Here we go, say I am enough. I am golden, baby, I am enough. Yeah, I am enough. I am enough. Oh, I am golden, baby, yeah. I am enough. I am enough. No. Ooh, I am enough. I am enough. Oh. Ooh, I am enough. Golden, baby, I am enough. I am enough. Listen up, say, you are enough. You are golden, baby, you are enough. You are enough. No, you are enough.
All right, listen up. I want you to sing this, you are enough, like you're singing it to your childhood self, like you're singing it for all the children around the world, like you're singing it for that child inside of each of us who just wants to know they are enough. This is a prayer. This is an intention for them. So all together, we go to we are enough. You are enough. Let's go.
You are enough. You are golden, baby. You are enough. You are enough.
That's right. Sing it.
You are enough.
You can even whisper it.
You are golden, baby. You are enough.
That's right.
You are enough.
Feel it in your heart. One more time.
You are enough.
Little louder.
You are golden, baby.
You are enough.
That's right.
You are enough. Last time, come on. You are enough. You are golden, baby. Yeah. You are enough. Last time, we're gonna go till we are enough. We are enough. Yeah. We are golden, baby. Yeah. We are enough. This is our moment. We are enough. This is our time. We are enough. We are golden, baby. Yeah. We are enough. We are enough. No, we are enough. We are golden, baby. Yeah. We are enough. No matter what you're going through, we are enough. Here we go together. Come on. We are enough. Oh, we are golden, baby. Yeah. We are enough. We are enough. No. Ooh. Ooh. We are enough. We are enough. Ooh. You are enough. I am enough. We are enough.
We are enough. We are golden, baby. And I want you to know that no matter what you're going through, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how much money you have in your bank account, and no matter who you love, that you are enough. That you are worthy of the gift that is this life, of the freedom that is your birthright. And most importantly, remember, we rise together. And that's why I have it on my shirt. That's what my shirt says on the bottom. We rise together. Because we do. I love you. I thank you. I honor you. And it's an honor, a great honor and a privilege to talk and be with you today. This is Justin Michael Williams signing out, and I'll meet you right here in this special place the next time we're together. Much love. Bye for now.
Truth be told, every time I hear Justin sing the song Enough, I can't help myself. I start belting out the lyrics. And I also just feel so happy in my heart that the Sounds True Foundation is partnering with Justin Michael Williams on the Stay Woke Give Back Tour, a tour that is now virtual and reaching thousands of high school students and college students across America. Come join us, learn more at staywokegiveback.org, and let's bring freedom meditation to as many young people as possible. Also, if you're interested in learning more about Justin Michael Williams' free Sunday community event, it's called The Kingdom, or the new online experience that Justin's putting together. It's called the Liberation Experience, where people are being invited to meet in groups, what Justin's calling infinity groups, and dialogue together, and together do the internal and external work of ending racism in our lifetime. To learn more, visit Justin at his website, justinmichaelwilliams.com. Thanks, everybody. Walking together. SoundsTrue.com.